Hey guys, thanks for joining me tonight. This will be my last video for my COM 263 course, and it will involve everything that I have learned so far throughout the duration of this course. So this video will be on everything from cultural communication challenges, language and culture, um, and verbal, nonverbal communication, um, things like that. I do have my notes with me just in case I need to look at them from time to time so that I know what sections I need to cover and just to make sure that I've covered everything before I close out the video. So the first thing I want to talk about is cultural communication, values, and challenges. So that, for me, from my own expertise, in dealing with people, or like not dealing with per se, but interacting with people who are from different cultural backgrounds, different beliefs, to me is kind of interesting because um, I'm learning about different cultures, different traditions, different um, celebrations or special events that they have. Um, like right now at my place of work, as you all know, I have two jobs, but the main one where I work is at Whataburger. I do come across a lot of people that are from different parts of the world. One of our managers that we have there now is actually from Germany, and so so she's got the thick accent and everything, and I'm learning a lot from her as far as like different phrases, different culture, traditions that uh, they have, and things like that. Um, so with respect to that, I've kind of had like an open mind. I've learned to keep an open mind about this kind of thing because I do want to travel the world. It's one of the things on my bucket list before I die. Um, that I want to travel the world with my husband and see different places, different countries, um, not just going from state to state within the United States. I want to go out, like abroad. I want to travel to Spain, to France, to um, Germany, to different places, London, um, those kind of places, just to see what um, how different everything is and how the traditions that they have and kind of what they have gotten from us and what we can get from them. Um, with respect to the cultural communication and the challenges, it's just about keeping an open mind. Like I said, learning about different cultures, different people, being open to new perceptions. I know we're used to a certain way, and um, it kind of just feels like when someone new comes into the picture that's from a different cultural background, um, that has different traditions or that does things a certain way from their country, from their beliefs, it kind of throws us off, because we're so used to a certain way, and then for someone to come into the mix that's from a different part of the world, it's just like we're trying to figure them out, but we're also trying to figure out to make sense of what they're bringing to the table. Um, and that's where the communication challenge comes into play, because um, some of them actually don't even have a basic understanding of the English language, so they have to kind of train themselves, especially like if they're adults. They have to go through different programs where they actually teach them how to speak English, how to make the transition. Um, Also, I mean, if they have kids and they go to school, they have to be put in a bilingual program where um, they can be taught how to make that transition from their um, their language to um, basic English. But at the same time, we also learn from them um, different words, phrases, and even though we can't blend them all together, we can't um, speak it fluently. I mean, we're learning. So it's just a matter of being open um, to learning new things, because as you grow and you progress in your company or in your job, you're going to come across a lot of people from different parts of the world, from different religious backgrounds, from that have different traditions, that also um, speak different languages and bring their own traditions and infuse it together with our own. So we have to be able to be open to accept what they have to offer, but also give them a little something of what how we do things as well, and then kind of mesh that together. Um, the next thing I wanted to talk about is the language and culture in general. So since I'm studying really the kind of like the Latin American culture, um, because my husband is Hispanic, and he is part of the Latin American culture. Um, their different, their traditions and ways of life are a lot different than what I'm used to, because I know that he was raised Catholic, and so they have different traditions every month, or they celebrate different days and special religious ceremonies and what have you. I know that he is also very religious, so he has a lot of his saints and his, and of course God and everything that he worships and honors and celebrates, his life and everything that he gave for us, which is what everyone should do, really. But also, like, I'm learning more. Other than that, I'm learning about the different special holidays that are celebrated in the Latin American community. Like, there's Hispanic Heritage Month coming up in October, so they have different cultural exhibits, or they have one dedicated to Tejano music. They have Latin American art, artists, musicians. They have special, like, vendors that have different things that depict the Latin American culture. So that should be interesting too. And then I know in November they also celebrate the Day of the Dead, and then there's in December where they have it's called a posada. It's like a ceremony, or like a little kind of like a passion play, so to speak, where they depict Mary and Joseph's journey, trying to find shelter, and it was the night before our Lord and Savior was born. So that's very special to them as well. And then there's also, like, I know he says that his grandmother likes to watch the Mexican soap operas. They're called telenovelas. And those are very popular as well in the Latin American community, or in the culture. So I mean, it's really interesting how the language and the culture kind of go together in that respect, because people that are that are born with, like, into the Latin American community. They're some of them don't even know uh, how to speak Spanish, even though they are Hispanic. They don't know how to speak it, but I think that with the cultural infusion, it kind of helps for them to be able to understand it. Because there's some people that I've come across that they understand it, but they don't know how to speak it, and some that speak Spanish and understand it, but they're only able to hold a conversation in Spanish for so long. Kind of like my husband. Like, he's I think with him it's like he's not advanced as he would like to be, but he's kind of like intermediate, at the intermediate level. So he can speak Spanish, but there's only so much that he can say, or that he's able to communicate, because afterwards his verbs kind of get jumbled up, and he starts getting tongue tied. So he has to transition between English and Spanish. Nonverbal communication training guide, which was an assignment that I had done a few weeks back, shows the different ways on how to communicate. So there's a lot of different ways you can communicate other than verbally. You show communication through, like, hand gestures, even a look, the way you look at somebody kind of says a lot. Your tone of voice, what is said and what is meant, also has a lot to do with it too. I know that as we go on through the years and we advance, there's different slang phrases and different forms of communication that are developing and that are crossing over into mainstream society. So a lot of what we say and what we do is kind of like indicative of what we see on TV, on online, on YouTube. So we're learning different dialects, different words, phrases, or forms of communication. Being able to look somebody straight in the eye, communicating with your hand, talking with your hands, kind of like the way I do. Even when I'm demonstrating something, or like even now as I'm talking to you, I'm using my hands. Even though you can't see it, but I am using my hands. Facial expressions too say a lot. Being able to respect one's personal space too when you're communicating. The level of distance that you're supposed to keep from between you and that person, and that kind of thing. I mean, there's a difference between keeping it professional and being in someone's personal space, which is, if you're in someone's personal space, then that just is, you're in a relationship together, and that's about as close as you're going to get. And this thing can be said when you're talking to an associate or like a manager, kind of like me. When I'm communicating with the people that I work with, I keep a certain distance between me and that person, because I'm not going to be up in their face and telling them, oh, this and this. No, like, I know professionally I need to keep a certain distance from them, because I don't want anybody else in my space too. So it's just that respect that we both have for one another, and we keep our distance, we make eye contact, we explain what's going on, and that's the end of it. How we react to it is a form of nonverbal communication. How we communicate that the problem or the solution or whatever it is, says a lot. The tone of our voice, the hand gestures, everything, everything that encompasses nonverbal communication. Moving on to conflict styles and conflict management. There's different styles of conflict and different ways to manage it. I know within the workplace, it's kind of difficult because, especially when it's a serious matter, I mean, you kind of, especially if you're one of those that has like a really short temper, you have to practice self-control, because if not, the thing that you really want to say can come out wrong, and it'll just be a mess. So it's just a wise decision to keep your cool, maintain calm demeanor, and then communicate what's going on and how you want to resolve it. Just recently, there was a conflict at work that we had. Just as an example, one of the associates was in a bad mood and decided that they were going to take it out on somebody else, or like a manager. Well, the manager didn't respond well to it and promptly fired that associate. Now, I think that as the manager myself, I would have handled that differently. I would have spoken to the associate. I would have pulled him aside, because I'm not one to say anything or cause a scene in front of customers. So me being professional, I would have called the associate in my office and talked to them about what was going on, and then finding a solution to the problem. And then that way it would have kept them there. The whole thing could have been avoided if that conflict management would have been handled the way it should have been. So there's different ways to go about handling conflict in the workplace. But the most important thing is to remember, just no matter how bad it is, always maintain your cool. You don't want to fly off the handle. You don't want to explode, because if not, then it could be bad. It could have like terrible repercussions for you and everyone involved. So another example recently, an associate had called, at my other job, had called corporate office to complain about a manager's behavior and her management skills. And apparently what was said was that they felt as though they couldn't come to her and talk to her, because they felt that she would always get upset with them. And when the manager found out what was said about her, she'd and this was an assistant manager that had called and reported the whole thing. When the store manager found out, she turned around and went out onto the sales floor and got into an argument with the assistant manager over what had happened. Instead of calling her to the back and talking to her about it, she chose to handle it in a way that was very unprofessional. So she basically called her out on the sales floor in front of customers, and the customers in turn got scared. They panicked and they left. So that's another thing too. Like, if there's customers in your store, you don't want to do that, to cause a scene and for your customers to flee in terror because of what happened. So, I mean, the proper way to handle it is to take the associate or whoever, the associate, the assistant manager, whoever, and then pull them to the back, pull them away where there's no customers, where there's no other workers around, and just talk to them about what's going on. This is what was brought to my attention. I want to know what's been going on. How can I help you resolve it? And that's it. Whatever's said after that, kind of work with them, and hopefully the two of you or more can come up with a solution that will be beneficial for both parties. Never assume that what someone says, or basically what's hearsay, is the truth. And don't approach an argument, or don't instigate an argument, is what I mean to say. If some new information comes to light that you have never heard of, that is concerning you, and you don't agree with, or you think that that's fabricated, don't basically fly off the handle and be like, well, I heard this and this is what happened and I don't appreciate this. No, because that's not the way to handle conflict. Being professional, you have to maintain your cool, you have to be calm, you have to approach the situation with tact and have a sense of maturity. Be mature about it, and kind of try to see if there's a solution that you two can figure out, and then go from there. And then say, okay, well, in the future, I want this, and this done. And then that's that. Whatever problems or concerns you have, you come to me, and no one else. And whatever is said between us stays between us. So, as far as everything that I've learned from this course, I really feel as though, being that I've done my own research on this, it was very interesting to see that there were many forms of communication, how to handle conflict, how to kind of just stay open and keep an open mind about different cultural beliefs, traditions, and that kind of thing. As always, I love you all. Thank you so much for joining me again. I really wish you all the best of luck in this course, and I will see you all in the next class. Bye, guys.